Yeah, this will be fun since we normally talk to each other like 4 hours a day. So now we're going to do it like on camera. All right. Well, you ready to do this thing?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, welcome to Poor Decisions, a podcast about craft beverages from an insider's point of view. Our primary focus is wines made in the Midwest, but as we'll see today, we're going to go all over the map. Anything that you can pour is fair game. I'm Brian Lesbrance, the host of this thing, and work here at Fenn Valley Vineyards, where we record just off the crush pad, which is about to get busy as we're rapidly approaching harvest here this late summer. And I am joined today by somebody that I spend a lot of time with. So he literally sits about 10 feet from me most of the time at work. So probably spend more time with this guy than anyone else in my life at this point. So it's good to have you on, Matt. This is Matt Jannette, our head of winemaking at Fenn Valley.
Good to be here.
All right. Well, this is going to be interesting because I usually learn a lot about the background of the guest during the first segment where we just kind of go through your history and how you got on the into the world of beverages. But again, since I've been working with you for a decade now, just about, I'm going to try to stay awake through this part because I kind of know the story pretty well. But no, I'm sure I'll learn something because every time you dig into your background, I know I undig stuff that I didn't realize that I'd even experienced before. So for those who have not had the pleasure of sitting next to you for the last decade, why don't you kind of just walk us through sort of how you got here?
So southeast Michigan, born and raised, Metro Detroit, like most folks, I guess, in the state. Kind of northwest side there, kind of Commerce Township, Walled Lake, Novi, if you know anything about the area. Just kind of grew up. I mean, my mom's a lawyer, my dad's a kind of salesman, businessman. So kind of not really at all into the agriculture business. And growing up, didn't really, have any aspirations to be anything particular. I think every kid says they want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something that's going to make a bunch of money. That probably, I think pretty quickly my mindset was not what I wanted to do. I just didn't think that stuff was interesting. Kind of around like middle school time, my family, we kind of moved houses, kind of a growing up phase of my life. And for whatever reason, food got my mind at that aspect and that time of my life. I think it's kind of about the boom of all the Food Network stars and all that sort of thing. So, it's kind of food went about that and then kind of went down the whole, I want to be a chef. I want to be a chef growing up and kind of started that into college. And then my mom, being my mother, is like, well, why don't you do something not that so you can actually have a life and make money at some point in your time of, without being a chef. And she somehow discovered food science as a I guess degree you can get in college, which I still do have a pretty love of chemistry and science and pretty analytical as a winemaker in itself. So kind of explored that, kind of learned what the whole background of that program was, and decided, yep, that's what I'm going to do. I think I had a pretty strong desire to go to Michigan State University because my dad went there, kind of like a legacy thing. I applied there kind of first round, and I was a pretty good student in high school and really all ever. So got in kind of first round. I had ambitions to apply to like Purdue and Penn State, but I think as soon as I got that like first round entry acceptance letter, I said, all right, I'm good. You gotta coast to the rest of senior year, which is how you not to do, but I kind of did. So
Well, it worked out.
Yeah. Went to college, went to Michigan State. Passionate on food science. Didn't really know exactly where that was going to lead me down the path. About sophomore year, I was sitting in a class called Unit Operations. I remember it was very, very vividly. Very boring class to sit through on a nice spring day. You're talking about pumps and filters and all these things that I now use in my daily life, at least work life. And my professor, Dr. John Partridge, he said, breweries and all this sort of stuff. And I just heard the word brewery, totally zoned out, heard brewery. And I was like, you know what? That's interesting. And I think I spent the next 4 class periods just researching how to become a brewer, how to become a winemaker. Mostly I think just a brewer. That's kind of at the height of, I guess, the start of the boom of the craft beer scene. All these kind of cool beers are coming out, and there was a show on Discovery Channel. I think it was called Brewmasters or something like that followed Sam Calagione over at Dogfish Head and kind of his path. And
that was a great show.
And like, you know, what are you going to do in college, you know, and you watch the show and you're not doing studying or just, you know, avoiding studying is probably the real statement. But, yeah, so that kind of really just kind of piqued my interest. Like, you know, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down that route. Kind of glad I didn't at this point. So yeah, kind of said, all right, alcohol production essentially is what I want to do, open to all of it. About the same time, Michigan State started producing a specialization program about the whole alcohol beverage production, kind of mostly focused on distilling, but was also going to highlight, you know, the viticulture that was going on in Michigan State already. Started into the beer thing because Michigan was I think it still is one of the largest beer producing states, you know, or at least on the craft side.
Yep.
And we decided, and then kind of took that path. And then what really got me into wine was I joined a club called Spartan Enology Society. And it was just like what really fascinated me was learning about like terroir and like the specific regions and what grapes grow there and how it's different from the guy next to you and that whole kind of thing. And I was like, wow, it's just a lot of just very interesting things. And that kind of tied me back into like the whole chef restaurant world type of sort of studying and interacting with the students, kind of going into restaurant management. And I kind of decided, you know what, wine's it. That's what I'm going to do. From there, kind of found some study abroad opportunities over in Europe. We had an opportunity to study viticulture and enology in the southwest of France in Toulouse. Had a little small internship at a very small, like, family winery. Really, dad makes the wine, grows the grapes.
How many? I mean, how big are we talking here? I never really knew. I knew it was small.
Yeah,
I never dug in.
I don't even know. Probably like at least 5,000 cases. Okay. Maybe up to 10.
Well, that's, I mean, that's small, but not small at the same time.
No, yeah. So like, I guess they were, it was just very small, like, sort of operations, kind of more of like it was a small town, Cazadon, France. There were 3 wineries, no other businesses. Everybody else was either, you know, kind of construction or other sort of farming, kind of elsewhere, and kind of left the town. But yeah, it was just like, it was all sort of agricultural, like, town in a small valley between the next town over that I probably did the same thing. And yeah, we just focused on, I mean, it's kind of in the heart of, like, we probably call it, like, the Central Valley of France, just grapes everywhere because it's so warm and hot and can grow a bunch of things. But we did Viognier, Cinsault, Carignan, Grenache. There's a couple other varieties, but 3 reds, 1 white, rosé. And basically what I did is I scrubbed tanks and suckered vines and didn't have a clue what I was doing or really understand what was going on, but, you know, I thought I spoke French, studied for 5.5 years, and all of a sudden I get to France where they don't really speak much English and live with people that don't speak much English and understand that I don't understand French as well. So I think that improved my, I guess, language understanding of French.
Were you one of those people that just becoming immersed in it really helped you learn it more?
Yeah, I think I was beyond, like, I wasn't going to, like, study the language and, like, the history of the language and literature and stuff like that. So it was past the point of just sitting at a desk studying it. And then, you know, it was like, had to be immersed to really kind of gain any sort of, I guess, knowledge and fluency.
Sure. Poor Decisions is presented by Fenn Valley Consulting Services. Fenn Valley Services is a specialized division of Fenn Valley Vineyards dedicated to providing expert winery management and consulting services. With over 50 years of industry experience, we help farmers, winemakers, and wine marketers build successful, sustainable businesses. As a trusted winery management company, we offer customized, consultative solutions tailored to the unique needs of each client. Whether you need assistance with winery or tasting room operations, complete winemaking services, e-commerce support, or something else wine-related, our team of experts provides the experience and hands-on support needed to elevate your winery's success. Learn more at www.fennvalley.com. Okay, Matt's sipping the cocktail that he made. We're gonna get to that later, but I want to know what's it called because I want to try it while it's cold.
Yeah, so this is just a Spanish gin tonic, right? So it's a Spanish gin and tonic, but they call it gin tonic, I guess. I just read that up on the internet yesterday. But what's really unique about this is the actual gin, and it's called Nordes gin. It's a gin that's made with Albarino grapes.
Ah, interesting.
So, like, the flavor you're getting from that is just all the gin. It's not the tonic. Yep. You know, I came across this on our family trip out to San Diego back in February. and we went to a fish restaurant, kind of a Spanish tapas style place, and just got like the house gin and tonic, and then featured this gin, and I'm like, wow, that flavor is just amazing.
Yeah.
And like, I'm thinking they used some fancy tonic syrups and made their own thing in house, yada yada yada. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna look up the gin. It could just be that. I can't find it in Michigan. Can't get it in Michigan right now. So when I went to Chicago a couple weeks ago, got 2 bottles of it, and I'm like 80% sure this. I just need this and good tonic water. So yeah, found it, and it like made myself one gin. I'm like, that's it. That is it. It was the gin, 100%. And then, yeah, it's cool. It's not 100%, Albarino distilled.
Yep.
It's like 70-80% neutral grain with their botanicals, and then they use like another 20% as Albarino distillate. So
yeah,
just super refreshing. Beautiful floral character to it, and I guess it's kind of divisive in the gin and tonic world. People are like, "Oh, it's too floral. That's not it." Like, I don't care. It's delicious. So,
we'll go down maybe the gin rabbit hole a little bit if you can later. I would say just for now. I mean, this thing it's about 90 degrees today in Fennville, and it's a Friday afternoon. You'll probably be listening to this at 8 a.m. on a Monday or whatever, but it is the kind of day that this beverage was made for. So good work. Good work.
It definitely throws its own in its weight. And just if I'm not careful, I could probably just drink like 40 of these
on a day like today. It'd be tough to put them down.
Yeah, so I kind of went a little crazy with the accoutrement in there. Normally you just get a lime wedge, but lime and a little cucumber, some rosemary. I put some allspice berries in there.
That's beautiful.
That's kind of, I think that's more of an indicator of the Spanish of it's like the Bloody Mary version of a gin and tonic. Just throw all the cool accoutrement in there to kind of bring out some more flavors and do whatever. So.
I mean, it looks great, and it's beautiful looking. It's refreshing. It's got everything that a day like today calls for. So thank you for bringing it. We'll dig back into it a little bit. So we detoured for a sec just so that these things didn't just get all watered down. They were a little intricate to make on air, so we want to have it done ahead of time. Okay, so we're in France. I guess my other question about that time is, I mean, if you could pinpoint like a takeaway from besides that you didn't know French as well as you thought you did, despite a half a decade studying.
I knew the grammar. Definitely did not know the vocabulary at all.
I can totally believe it. Was there, from a beverage perspective, was there a big takeaway there? I mean, was there something that you really think back to that's still with you today as far as winemaking, or just?
I think really just like how little I did know. Right. I had great grades, in college and pretty much all my entire life, not 4.0 student, but solid, honor roll, 3.5 plus. And, it's like, oh yeah, I know what it takes to clean a tank or pump wine over, all these things. And really just like, he put me, like, I remember like the owner, he just goes, go clean the tanks. And I was like, okay.
Right. It's like I'm washing a car or something.
Yeah. And then he's like, there's the water and there's the tanks. And then I'm like, for what I honestly could not figure out how to turn the lights on in the cellar, or keep them on.
They could be hard to find in Fenn Valley too.
But it was just like, all right, that's a light switch. Cool. I go over and I turn it on and nothing turned on. So I'm scrubbing 15 tanks in the dark with a cold water, garden hose. And I'm rinsing them out. I can't see a thing inside the things. And then I'm like, all right, there's no more particulate washing off. I think I'm done. Maybe the next one. And then thought I did this in one day. And he goes, no, just no. And then so do some more, whatever. And I remember I had to paint the auger for the crusher one time. And then definitely I think my coming to Jesus moment about not realizing doing what French. I thought he told me how to put the end post stakes in one way, but he meant a different way, which he told me to do. I thought he told me what not to do and what to do in the same 30 seconds. So I did them all wrong across 50 rows, and he's just you did it. I was out there for 3 hours, and he's just no, you did it all wrong.
Oh God.
So yeah, and then I came back, finished my degree.
But that was an official internship. I mean, you got some kind of credit for this thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was so it was part of my study abroad opportunity where we did class for a month and then a very small internship that they found for us in place for us, So we paid money to get a grade, and this guy got free labor, right? And, But it was a great, like I said, it's a great opportunity just to like understand like what you don't know and kind of what it actually takes to work, and kind of what this would take. And then, also it was August in southern France, so it was like 100 degrees out. So I just remember being like outside the vineyard sweating all day. And they definitely did understand like the siesta in Mediterranean cultures where, you get up, you go to work till about 11, and then you go back out at 3 and take a 2-hour nap because you need to take a shower and eat food and rehydrate because it's hot.
Really hot. Yeah.
And they do not have AC. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a cool experience. Yeah. Okay, so and what year would this have been?
That was 2012.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So now you're back in East Lansing.
Back in East Lansing, freshly 21, off of spending a summer in Europe. Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, and I think Lansing is kind of a weird town where you can actually find solid wines at like a good price. Mm-hmm. The old, there's a store, old grocery store that's now like a Fresh Time.
Was that Goodrich's?
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
They had a great like little wine selection.
They did, and beer too.
Yeah. There was like a little like Spartan store, like Lake Lansing and Hagedorn Road.
Yeah,
they had like you can always find some stuff in the bargain bin, and then Dusty Cellar.
Yep,
they had a great. So just like I spent time just like exploring, whatever cent I could save to go drink some wine and kind of really learn there, and kind of coasted through the next like 2 years. Did a 5-year program.
Okay.
Or at least made myself have a 5-year program because, they started that specialization like my senior year, and it was like a 2-year thing just based on the classes because I only taught them one time per year. So, nice like 12 credits a semester for 2 years was nice and kind of, I've worked a lot more in whatever. So, graduated kind of, was applying to jobs, my senior, super senior year, or victory lap, as I've been told to call it. Mm-hmm. And like E&J Gallo came out to to find like some people to work in their distilling program because the program was new, producing some great distillers, and interviewed for the job. Figured I was not going to get it because it's definitely more of a chemical engineering kind of background that you kind of really needed to do that stuff fully. But interviewed for it, whatever. The guy was David. What was his name? His first name was David, and you could tell like I was not gonna get the job. He just like started off like to ask me some technical questions. Kind of like knew about like 50% of what to really say, and then from there he kind of just passed the resume through the ranks, right, and got me into like the winemaking team because I think he understood that like that's where I really wanted to be was in winemaking. Then get a random call one day at like 10 a.m. I'm like came back from a class, like figured I'd take a little quick nap or whatever, and 10 a.m. get this call. I'm like, whatever, answer it. And they're like, oh, are you Matt? Yeah, Matt. Well, do you want an internship at E&J Gallo? Sure, why not? That made my job searching, kind of easy after that. So graduated, moved out like early June, worked in the champagne and sparkling wine, specialty wine department in Modesto, working underneath Beth Liston and some few others, and met some great people out there, and just totally different side of winemaking, very corporate oriented, computer oriented. Like was told don't touch a pump because you will get fired because it's all I think union labor and regulated under that, but just insane scale and that just got to see super small to like super big, and just kind of see what it took to run that place, which was crazy. It's kind of, I guess, the depth of where I've been of kind of initial whatever. And then post that, had a job sort of lined up to work for a hard cider company out in Boston. Mm-hmm. But then like the offer did not make sense to go out and try and live out there. You know, it was less money than I was making as an intern at Gallo, and I was like, well, the cost of living is like double than what Modesto, California is. So there's like no way I'm gonna be able to do this.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, there's a few places in the U.S. that are off the charts. I lived in Boston for a couple of years, and I can appreciate it's a different world. If you're not like come from family wealth, you're pretty much just living paycheck to paycheck.
I've been living like two paychecks to live out there.
It's brutal.
So I essentially was like driving back, gonna take this job, got the offer, rejected it, and then kind of moved back at home with my parents, where I kind of got into sort of the retail side of wine, so selling bottles to a very affluent part of Metro Detroit, at Plum Market, where people come in for their Christmas budgets and be like $500 for 12 bottles. Like, all right, cool, let's have some fun here. Got to try a lot of really like nice wines and higher end wines just by nutrition and being there. And from there, I applied for a job at a mead hard cider place in Ferndale, Michigan, called Bee Nectar.
Yep.
When Detroit was sort of the mead capital of the world, might still be. I don't really know. And that's where I got my boots really wet, and kind of took a cellar job, scrubbed tanks for the first couple of weeks, learned how to clean totes, and kind of how the mead hard cider thing was sort of done on their scale and what they were doing, making a lot of interesting like flavored ciders and meads and things, and great people, kind of really cool, like eclectic, kind of like they seem kind of like skater punky folks, but they're like super. Everyone I met was like super nice and like welcoming, and they definitely like wanted me to be there to help them work. And then about that same time, was also interviewing for you at some point between A and B, and you kind of called me up about asking if I want to be the assistant winemaker, because I think I originally applied to be the winemaker. You're figuring I would probably not get that job, which makes sense. And then now, and kind of the assistant winemaker to become winemaker, I think was the offer from you. And I was like, let's do it. My now wife moved out to Grand Rapids to start her career / future schooling. I figured I should make it work and do the commute, and that's how I got to Fenn Valley. So,
good summary. There's it's always interesting to, again, I think my favorite part about this whole podcast is hearing people's stories, and there's threads that have been common among a lot of folks in the industry. Yours is different though. I think, a lot of things, because again, I've known you for so long, but I think the dichotomy of small French winery and then Gallo is really for you, I think, has been awesome, because we're kind of a little bit of both sometimes at Fenn Valley, and I think in general, then I'm working in Plum too, because we talk a lot at the day job about selling the stuff is really the super hard part, and getting harder by the year, it would seem. And so I think a lot of winemakers lack an appreciation for the person trying to sell the stuff and what the consumer is really thinking, besides just how great the wine is or what the style is, but they're looking at the competitive set from a price perspective. They're looking at the label. They're thinking about their overall budget. Like you said, maybe the event that's coming up that they're going to use the wine for. And so I think having that background is somewhat unusual in winemaking land. And so I think it's been super valuable. And I've seen it come out a lot in the sort of with the way that we discuss what we're going to do. It's not just always, it's all just the art. We look at the business side of it and make sure that the decision we're making is rooted in being around again in the next year. We could make something really crazy, but we would completely go out of business. And so I think that pragmatic approach, while also having fun with some small batches, is why I think it's been really cool that you had both of those experiences. And I'll throw some links in. I always do in the show notes. I've got more already than almost every other episode, just because you have done a lot of different stuff. So we'll look up some of these and the ones that are around. I know Plum's still around. I know Bee Nectar's still around. I think Dusty's is switching their strategy a little bit, so we'll figure that out. But send some links over. But Good Rich long gone, unfortunately, because I used to love going to that store. That was a trip down memory lane for me as a fellow Spartan. So
the French winery is called Domaine de Mathurin, Mathurins. Okay,
I'll have you send me the link if they're around. I'm assuming
they're still
are.
around. I looked them up not too long ago.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they have another kid. When I got there, they had like one daughter that was just born.
Okay.
Her name was Rose.
Okay.
I think they've had a second kid since then. But yeah,
good for them. I mean, it's good to see. I'm not. Old French wineries don't tend to come and go, so I think I'm not surprised to hear that they're still around. That's good. All right, so that's some good background. I guess one of the things that Matt and I've talked about a little bit is because Matt's so close, I don't want to take advantage of that, but it's not going to be uncommon to have Matt pop his head in the studio to, be an expert on something. So we kind of went high level today so that people get to know who you are. So when you do pop in for something, an AMA or an episode with maybe another guest where you're here as another expert, that they kind of know who you are, how you got here, what your story is. That's kind of the goal. One of the goals today of having you on is just to set the table. Some guests I'm sure will be repeats, some will be one and done, and you'll probably be among the most frequent. It's just because you know a lot and you're interesting and you're right here. Yeah. But mostly because you know a lot. There's a lot of people that live near me that are not coming on the podcast, so it's not just a proximity thing. But yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this thing in the future. So, but just kind of really high level. You've been pretty great at innovating in this space, and I guess I would just pull one thread before we go down the gin rabbit hole. In your time here, which is now basically a decade,
almost a decade, yeah.
What do you think is the biggest change that you've seen to what the approach to winemaking that you've been a part of?
I've been a part of? Oh God, I don't know. I think to say like modernization of like the winery is not probably correct. It's probably like maybe using modern techniques to produce, what has been done before, right? So we have 50, 60 SKUs, and a lot of them are just repeats, and they're not just for us, but a lot of our clients that we sell to. So you can't drastically change something without, having someone yell at you. That's definitely happened at least once here. With at least without their input or advising them, that's probably a learning moment. But kind of just bringing in some like new techniques to kind of enhance what we're already doing, right? So like the non-Saccharomyces thing that I know Andrew talked about with you a little bit. I will say I was first.
We were pretty early. He went a little harder early, maybe.
I dipped my toes in, and he went head first into the pool, right? So, but yeah, we like slowly, kind of we're using that thing, kind of just how can we, you see a problem. At least I think what I try to do is if I see a problem, try to not only solve the problem but eliminate its cause to try to make sure it never happens again. So the non-sacs have been good to kind of help beat back, if you get like compromised fruit or, maybe some guy didn't clean a hose correct or a tank correctly, how do you, that's just a sort of another security net we have to kind of make sure those bad things don't happen, but also like not rely on, just using sulfur or whatever to kind of make a wine, safe in terms of not, I guess, for consumption, but safe in terms of, producing a high quality product. And then, between that and then, I don't know, just like updating, kind of how we do things. I think the first project that I self-took on was let's update our cleaning protocols. Let's, switch up the chemicals a little bit. That's just from my background in food science, knowing, if you use like a caustic with a caustic blend, it's got caustic and surfactants and cleaning agents and all these things in it to kind of help improve your cleaning process. You can probably make a cleaner tank easier, quicker, more effectively than just by using some of the methods we were using. That's, I don't know, for whatever reason, I have a weird tick on that. Just like go down that thing. And maybe it's probably because I'm from the food science background. How do I, have a lot of knowledge based on more of the food industry versus the wine industry, which is more regulated. And, I am fully HACCP certified. So, there's, I guess QA is always like a pinpoint for me. So
yeah, I think you that, like you say, we went not super deep down the non-Saccharomyces yeast thing with Andrew. I think maybe we'll have both of you on one time and we'll just go all in on that on an AMA or something where we really discuss the different, because they serve a lot of different purposes, and I think especially in cool climate winemaking they have some applicability that is really
and it's
valuable.
Like blowing up, now it's because like it's catching fire. Everyone wants something new. It's like the new yeast. Everybody used to want like a different Saccharomyces yeast strain for fermentation. Now it's, what cool Meshlicovia strains do you have to, I've just found out there's some that like are oxygen consumers. So if you're trying to do fully reductive winemaking, and it's like Sauvignon Blanc, we'll throw that thing in there, and then it's going to eat up all your spare oxygen out there, and now you're super reductive, and you're going to retain all your aromatics. So
yeah, with less sulfur use and everything else.
And there's a new one out there. It's a malic producer, so like it's something with like high pH, like cider apples, like some Dabinettes. Some of these heritage cider apples. So if you're gonna produce them, you have a high chance of potentially producing some spoilage organisms because of the high pH.
Yep.
If they're also high sugar, well, I don't want a 12% cider, so let's get that thing down to like 8, and then produce malic and balance out your pH. So,
interesting. I've never heard of that one.
It's new.
Yeah, we'll have to include that in the bucket maybe if it's even commercially available.
Well, little do you know that we're actually going to be doing a trial for one of the companies. So I signed us up on some cider apples that we're going to work with Virtue.
Despite being 10 feet away, I don't know everything that Matt's up to all day. I'm frequently in meetings and not in there, and also I don't care. I mean, I do care, but I'm not a real micromanager, so
I don't think it would cost us anything. So
that helps.
Not?
Yeah, man. If it costs a lot of money, then I usually get involved. But I like being involved. It's just we all have to wear different hats, and in our company, I know I personally can not lose sleep over the winemaking side, because I know Matt's got it under control. So I try to take care of all the other stuff that needs to be dealt with, so that we can keep making good wine and keep everybody happy. So, the other thing I would say that you touched on, I would 100% agree with the big picture of what, from my take, has been a big part of the arc of your career here. The cleaning one is way less sexy. Not that non-Saccharomyces yeast are particularly interesting to those except for us. But
microbiologist.
And really the probably people listening to this podcast will be more interested than most. But the cleaning piece, I think there's two things that I really, and I know we talk about this all the time. We are still so far from where we want to be. You'll never be where you want to be, but we know we still have a lot of building blocks to take on. Talk about a really fun podcast. We'll just talk about cleaning for a few hours. But that's what makes that's the most important thing, other than good fruit, probably, to making good wine is doing a good job of being clean and organized in the cellar. But I think there's two things. The one is that you've really done, I think, that changed things, is by being smarter about what chemicals we use and how we use them. We've reduced the amount of cleaning chemicals that we use and the amount of water that we use, which is good. We have to manage our own wastewater system here because we're in the middle of nowhere. So we are putting, and that's all regulated by the state of Michigan. They have to, they sample it, they check it. It's approved design. In fact, I just went through the renewal of it this year. So they come out and they make sure you're doing it right. And one of the things that we talked about with the state of Michigan was how much, they saw our numbers very much on trend with leading edge food producers who are clearly using chemicals in a more efficient way. They said over the last 20 years, you can just see the difference in there's a bigger dichotomy between the businesses that have really taken this seriously, are using the right tool for the job, and the more dogmatic facilities that are just throwing a lot of stuff at it. And sometimes it reduces the efficacy of the material if you use it at the wrong rate or at the wrong time with the wrong temperature or the wrong ancillary piece of equipment. So I think that's part of it. And then the other piece is, cleaning, especially tanks, can be among the most dangerous jobs we do. If a tank's not vented out after fermentation and you have to get in it, there's the potential CO2 risk. It's a slippery environment if you're in it. Anything we do to not be in the tank is a big win. They're a confined space. And so a lot of the things that you've done, whether it's through spray bottle technology with better use of chemicals, temperature controlling the liquid by insulating the hoses, buying dedicated pumps, it's a lot of investment. But it's led to way less people climbing inside of tanks, which just means way less potential injury, way less time being spent, and just an overall better work environment. Because that was, while we always expect our team to be cleaners first, there's cleaning and then there's being inside of a fermenter, scrubbing. And those are two very different things.
Yeah, get rid of the green scrubbies.
Yeah, they're also really bad for the tank. So we're using stuff that it's just been great, and I think the whole team would agree that it's just for a way better work environment. Again, long way to go. And then I think you also really revolutionized how we do barrel changeovers too, and that'd be a great sort of AMA too, because there's some really cool technology out there, and Matt has his own set of barrel repair tools, which are like medieval
Yeah.
looking tools. Like it's kind of
talk about a medieval craft. It has not changed in hundreds of years.
These tools are hilarious looking, but they work. I mean, we really go through.
I did not pay money to learn how to be a cooper. I watched a YouTube video and said I could do that, and I think it works.
Well, I mean, the good thing about repairing a barrel is you know if it works or not. You know, if it's leaking,
the hole's
it
there,
work.
It's not.
Yeah. So it's this pass or fail grade, and I mean, you can't always fix them. Obviously, we're not miracle workers, but I do see several examples of your repair jobs in the cellar even right now. So it's good. And that's also better for the environment because the barrel doesn't have a whole lot of use besides furniture after you can't repair it from a leak perspective. So it's nice to it can burn the wood. I mean, they don't go to waste, but it's nice to use them for winemaking as long as possible because they also aren't giving them away these days. So okay, all right. So I think we'll pivot a little bit into because that's the thing I like about bringing you on is that you're a winemaker, but I would say when you're not here, you started out in beer. Obviously, you've made mead. You brought a cocktail, so you're a Renaissance man when it comes to the fermented beverage space. So I guess maybe talk through. I don't know if you want to talk about gin. Do you want to talk about cocktails in general or spirits in general? But maybe just a little bit of kind of how you came into liking that as a winemaker.
Spirits. I guess just being an ethanol consumer is kind of where it's at. Everyone always asks me, us on tours or whatever, it's like, what's your favorite wine? What's your favorite? What do you like to drink?
Yeah.
What do you like to drink out of the winery? It's like, honestly, it's whatever's in my glass, whatever's interesting to me and whatever intrigues my palate. I always say I'm like a high acid, dry drinker and that's true, but then I'm also slamming glasses of late harvest Riesling that we produced this year. It's one of one of our sweeter wines, but so I don't know. I guess gin, kind of what I found interesting about this is just the aromatics on it, right? I think what probably really describes what I like to drink is things that have aromatics and flavor or some sort of texture, or some differentiating things to them. I don't really like drinking just the mundane. But yeah, it's like this gin. Like what I found interesting about it wasn't initially the flavor, but then kind of realizing that they were using Albarino grapes or wine into this production is why I like it. And then I don't know. I think what's really cool. It's made in the Galicia region of Spain, so kind of the area above Portugal, kind of the northern side. Kind of seems that area is like where I like everything that kind of comes out of there. It's a very gastronomic center, of Spain, and I've never not had a good time in Spain. That's a couple of times I've been there. So, it's definitely, I think if it was any other place in the world that I would like to work, it'd be there. Yeah. It's very, coastal, a lot cooler than I think center of Spain, and Albarino grows there. Chocolate, which makes Chocolino wine, is there. Some wines I really enjoy drinking. Heavy seafood, which for whatever reason, I've gotten into. Like, I did not care for seafood as a kid, but like in the last 5 years, I'm like, yeah, fish is awesome. Crustaceans are awesome. Yeah. I guess just obviously your palate changes, but yeah, and then this has no actual squeezing of any juices in it. So all the flavor is really just the gin and, I use Fever Tree Mediterranean tonic, so it's very kind of neutral as a tonic goes, and not overly sweet. And it's a little bit it's lighter in the alcohol. It's actually probably a little heavier than what it should be, but again, it's just meant to crush on a 90-degree day, so more of an aperitif, quote unquote. Yeah, it doesn't taste super hot for a spirits-based drink. The aromatic is phenomenal. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but most gins are probably grain-based, right? The fruit-based gin is somewhat less common. I think that's, so this is 80%, neutral grain spirits plus the Albarino portion of it. But yeah, typically when you're distilling, but for gin, you're using a grain base or a fairly neutral base because it's all about the aromatics. Right. And kind of your special blend of aromatics you got to put into your gin. The typical thing is juniper, which is kind of that's the classic gin, right? The Beefeater gin. You're talking juniper or some sort of sprucey sort of note like that. Yeah. Then a lot of times they'll throw in things like cinnamon or orange peels or other herbs, like, so you got some rosemary in this cocktail, just as a garnish, but it accentuates. There's also some allspice berries in there to kind of maybe coax out a little more depth and darkness, darker flavors. But it all really depends on the distillery and what they want to produce. And essentially what you do when you produce this is, while you're distilling, you make a base fermentation of your grains or your fruits or whatever, sugar, if you really wanted to, base. Then you kind of clean it up through a still. So you boil it, you heat up the alcohol. And because there are different boiling points between water and other liquid things, ethanol, methanol, fusel alcohols, all these things, through science and studying it, we know that alcohol burns at like 173, I want to say 176, something like that. If I'm wrong, I'm sure
it's all right.
Somebody will call us out.
Don't use this podcast for entertainment purposes only.
And it distills off, and you basically vaporize the alcohol and then try to rectify that by cooling it down as it hits the top of your column or your still, and you kind of vaporizes over and drips down, and it condenses through kind of a cooling column down into a collection bin. And at that sort of boiling point, you're pulling off just pure ethanol or pure enough type of thing. Usually it takes a couple of runs to do that, to kind of separate all your different things. But, excuse me. And then kind of how they produce gin off of that is essentially at that point you've made a neutral spirit or like a vodka. Vodka technically needs more, carbon filtering and higher proof, but you basically just off of that distilling off as the alcohol drips down, you put it into like what's called I think an aromatics basket or something. Put all your little accoutrement in there, all your junipers, all your peels and your herbs and spices and whatever. And you let that alcohol kind of drain over the thing, over everything, and kind of extract the flavors, the flavonoids, and all the things that the nature has produced, and extract that into your final product to produce your unique flavor. And all that's kind of just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and kind of just taste trialing and stuff like that. So it's very basic how gin is produced, I guess. And I'm kind of a huge whiskey guy, and I don't think anyone my age is not. I've got way too many bottles of whiskey at my house right now. It doesn't help my sister lives in Kentucky.
Yeah, so there you go.
But yeah, just kind of like, you always like drinking, gin and tonics in college and whatnot, and kind of growing up, and then kind of just moved on to the whiskey thing. Kind of got bored with, Beefeater, or that's not saying they're bad.
Right.
Just, you got tired of them, and then this thing, for whatever reason, went to a restaurant that made a Spanish gin tonic with this gin. Now it's just like, okay, now I got to go try more. Like, I was buying Fever Tree and then found this like $6 bottle of, it's called Monkey 47 gin. I'm like, all right, I'll buy that too. Don't tell the wife. But yeah, so just kind of reinventing, just trying new things, new flavors, new combinations. The new thing out there is the bitters, the Amaros and all that. That's kind of a new hit trend with, I think, younger millennials and even anyone drinking it in the world right now. I always kind of knew about these. Like my first experience was like pastis in southern France, when I was in my internship, which is essentially like an absinthe-esque type of thing, but it's called pastis from where it's located, and very like methylated and herbal, and you pour a little bit in the bottom of a glass, add the cold water on top. You don't do the full dripping thing like they do with absinthe, and that's just like the aperitif for the dinners. And like I remember like my first day, we were going to a party, or someone's birthday party. They pour me that and say, try it. They knew I was probably not going to like it. And like I tried it, I'm like, this is good. Like I didn't dislike it, but it was totally like change of like flavor profiles and stuff. So but now it's like I find everything and drink everything. So it was pretty cool.
That's great. No, I think I really haven't been much of a gin expert, and I think just not thinking about it, it's quicker to market, obviously, than your browns, because you're not aging it, generally speaking. It's naturally lower alcohol than I think all the spirits as a category, because like you say, your proofs, I think, are usually...
It's typically around like the 40%, 40%, 80 proof market.
Yeah, so I guess it's about typical.
But. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, like a lot of your whiskeys are pushing that 45 plus now. You know, like if you the more mass produced stuff is definitely at the 80 proof.
Yeah.
I think a lot of gins were or used to be at like 35% alcohol for whatever reason. Probably just to like help cut out the harshness of them.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of like small distilleries like are initially known for their gin that they're producing because it is unique.
Yeah.
Long Road Distillers in Grand Rapids is known for some pretty crazy gins. They produced an asparagus gin this year, which I thought was pretty cool. They're, you know, all local, so it was a Michigan asparagus gin, which I didn't try, but saw it at the store.
That's interesting.
There is Valentine Distilling in Ferndale, Metro Detroit area.
Yep.
They have a barrel-aged gin, Liberator barrel-aged. It's fantastic. A lot of cinnamon, darker spice notes to it. Yeah, so that's like kind of that's how the people get what they're known for and kind of keep them in business until they have their 10-year, you know, old bourbon that they can finally sell.
Yeah, so, well, that's a big part of it. It's in the wine wine world. It's like, well, let's just
Pinot Grigio.
Yeah, I mean,
we planted at this massive vineyard, and you know, here's Pinot Grigio.
Yeah,
so you can turn that out in a year.
I mean, let's set aside the 4 or 5 years to establish the vineyard, and just say once you've done that, you're really antsy to get going. And so a dry white on no barrel age, like say Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, something like that, and then another couple of years at least to get your reds out. So it's no wonder a lot of wineries start with some white wines. But and same with the distilleries. I totally get it. You got to make cash flow. Yeah. Most of us aren't independently wealthy. We're doing this, because we love it, but we also need to pay some bills. And so I think the other piece, like you said, is gin. Probably of all the spirits has the most creative flexibility that you can really make unique. I mean, the other whiskeys, a whiskey drinker will know the difference and can dive into the nuances between the two different whiskeys. But the average layperson, it's gonna be like good or bad. They might be able to tell the difference of like maybe more refined whiskeys versus stuff that's clearly bottom shelf, meant to be mixed with stuff. But I think with gins, you can really go in a whole different direction of the botanicals that you've chosen, and so you can really put your mark on something. You're not
so, I guess, carried away with what exactly is kind of coming out of the base profile, which is probably wrong. I guess with something like whiskey or even kind of like sort of winemaking, is you're trying to focus on certain, they're doing it on distillate level, kind of actually pointing out specific molecules, so they want to carry over. And in wine, we're trying to carry that over, from the grape itself, but like trying to coax out certain aromatics based on yeast selection, based on technique, all these sort of things. And I think at our wine fest this year, I gave the talk about the flavor and and trying to talk about like taste memory. But that's like, I think one of the coolest things I ever learned was the first time you taste something, right? You taste it, and then your mind literally takes a picture, and it's tasting these aromatics and saying, oh, that's an orange, oh, that's a birch tree, oh, that's a spruce leaf, whatever. And then it knows, it's kind of a survival thing. It's like, oh, that's safe to eat, oh, that's not safe to eat, whatever. But then as you learn in more things, your body is able to decipher all that. And then what's interesting about that is those same compounds at different levels of concentration will change like what you're tasting, which I think is a really cool thing, is that there's these compounds called cadaverine and putrescine, which if they sound as disgusting as they are, because they're the smells of cadavers and putrid things, at high levels smell like rotting things.
And your body's programmed to know that is not safe.
Offended by that, and stay away. But at really low amounts, you get things like roasted coffee. Like roasted coffee has very minute amounts of like putrescine and cadaverine, but it smells these really nice roasty, toasty flavors. And that's really interesting and unique. And it's like all like sensory science. If I was to go do further studies, would be like that type of thing, and kind of just identifying molecules and like understanding how that affects our brains and all that sort of stuff. So
it's also one of the other maxims that I've heard a lot recently, which is in a lot of cases the dose determines the poison. A little bit of that is like roasted coffee. A lot of that is dead body. So the human body is amazingly good at parsing these things out. And as you pointed out, this would be an area that you'd be interested in, which is another thing I learned today, which is great. I got to believe that would like play to a lot of your strengths, the analytical side, but also the artistic side, and how. But also the memory piece, I think, has sort of come up in this podcast before, not quite with the fine point you put on it, but the idea that, you know, wine and beverages can be sort of like living art, but also are like a time capsule. And so when you have an experience with a beverage, and again, I think a gin maybe will do a better job of this because it is it can be so unique that when you have it next time, it brings you back to that prior thought or space or mindset or company you had or whatever. That's a huge reason why people get, I think, brand loyal to different products, is that they've, you know, they had this on a really great day of their life, and every time they grab that same bottle, they have a little part of them that reminds them of that day, of that time, whether it's, and we always joke about this, but whether that's bringing you back to something that's great or helping you through something that's not great, you know, there's different ways you could justify it. But the point is, it brings you to a different mind state through just these subtle sensory components that just trigger something in your brain that, generally speaking, is helpful.
Like, to that point, it's like, every time I drink this shit, I just take it back to that San Diego trip where me and my wife took our young daughter. We went to a restaurant called Mabel's Gun Fishing, if you're ever in San Diego.
Okay.
And they were like super, I mean, we went there like 5 o'clock, you know, but it's like,
because you got a little kid.
Yeah.
In part. Yeah.
Yeah. And part of that. And also just, we don't want to be there at 8 p.m. with a little kid.
Yep.
Right. So, but like, they were like, the second we walk up the door, we're like 2 minutes late to a reservation, whatever. But they were super welcoming, even like with our daughter. And it was just like, okay, cool. You know, you never know if you go to those places if they're gonna be like, oh god, this people bring their kid here, right? But no, they're super welcoming. The wait staff was great. Like, did recommendations. I mean, we ordered way too much food, but it was great food, amazing food. It was great experience. So great trip, highlighted by a great guy. Kind of always will be remembered based on this gin. So
that's good. You know, and the other piece, it's like you have to deliver on both. So the initial impression, we talk about this a lot at the winery, is so critical. You know, walk in the door, are you welcoming? Is it a good environment? Does it feel good? And then that's like the ante to play the game. Like if you're playing poker, it's ante to get, that's your table stakes. Then the product has to deliver because you've gotten them in the right frame of mind. They're there. They're ready to have a good experience. And then if the product delivers, now you put the whole package together, and then you got that sort of last impression piece. So, you know, it sounds like they're doing all the right things, and you had a really good drink in the process. So it all kind of worked out. You know, that doesn't always happen. You know, there's a lot of room for error.
The food was also great. I keep talking about the drink, but like the food was amazing.
Yeah.
Like some like bamba rice, like paella type of thing. It was fantastic. And it was like fried fish. It had like Chinese 5 spice through it. It was great.
I mean, it's when you get those meals. I've got a few like in my head that just I'll never forget. You know, they'll always, and it's sometimes, you know, it's part of the company. Like you have to kind of put it all together. It all has to work. But when it does, it's like that'll be with you for the rest of your life. And so, and that gin company will benefit from that because you'll be buying the gin for the rest of your life. So, all right, well that's pretty great, Matt. I'm going to transition us to a segment that you don't have to do, but I warned you that you could do it, which is the This Doesn't Pour segment. Basically, I would say the rule here is anything that you can get through TSA security counts. Now, that may be changing, so I may have to change the whole segment if they let liquids through. Hopefully that includes beer and wine, but I somehow doubt it. The This Won't Pour segment is sponsored by Carrier Signal. Carrier Signal is an IT services provider specializing in small and medium businesses with unique needs. They handle everything from technology and security assessments, cloud migration, point-of-sale integration, and cloud-based phone systems. Learn more at www.carriersignal.com. Anyway, I've got one that it's been a couple years old, but I just used it yesterday, so it was on my mind, which is an app called Picture This. And I don't think the name is the best, to be honest. I'm not trying to knock them because the app is awesome. And it is an app that's really designed to help you identify a plant, like what it is, and then it will look at it, and it's gotten better probably with AI. It was pretty good even before AI. It will tell you like, okay, the plant's healthy, or it's got a fungal disease, or it's thirsty, or whatever. And so it gives, and then it also tell you toxicity to animals. So like if you're buying a plant for your house, you're at the store and you go, 3 cats, and this thing cats love, and it kills them. It's probably not a good choice. So it's really cool. And because I moved into my house, I didn't plant the whole perennial gardens. There's stuff I just didn't know what it was. I sometimes it's like I didn't know if it was a weed or not. Although I did have a friend who's a master gardener, and I asked her if that thing in the garden was a weed, and her response was, "Do you like it?" I said, "Not really." She goes, "Then it's a weed." so that's a little different definition. But
do you want it there?
Yeah.
No.
She said any plant you don't want is a weed, technically speaking. But anyway, the app's great. It's called Picture This. They have it on Android and on iOS. You have to pay a little bit if you want the features. It's maybe $30 a year, but it's pretty great. I haven't found a plant it can't identify, which is, and even with like a leaf, it's kind of freaky how great it does at picking stuff out.
Does it do like mushrooms?
I don't think so. That's like a whole other thing. I know. I could use that too.
Especially like when we're out doing the grape sampling, I find so many mushrooms out there. I'm like,
Can I eat
great.
this?
Can I eat this? Because it looks delicious. And like, and of course, we download an app real quick, and it's like, well, you're gonna pay $10 per month. So I'm like, I'm not.
I don't know. I don't think it does. I really don't. There's probably more liability on that
there's a
app
bunch of liability
for sure.
for sure.
This one, it's like, well, do I need to give this plant water or not? It's not. Am I going to eat it right now and then keel over?
You
and
will die, or you will survive.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look that up. We'll feature that on another doesn't pour segment. We'll see. But that's what I've got. I don't know if you have anything, Matt, you want to share. If not, that's totally fine.
It's based on like some hobby or something, right, about your life.
It can be. I certainly like to garden.
Can you define pour a little bit?
Oh boy.
You are right.
Is it a liquid? Yeah.
No, that makes it even more challenging. But yeah, no, like as you know, I'm a big meat guy, animal proteins. Yep. So I guess kind of like just over the last maybe like year or so, I've been like I've always made a little bit, but like making more like my own like brats and kielbasa and sausage and stuff. And now it's a little bit more exacerbated because like my favorite butcher in Grand Rapids just sold, which is not the end of the world, but it's just not gonna be the same. So you kind of maybe lose a little brand loyalty. We'll see.
Sure.
But yeah, just kind of diving into. I got the Bible, quote unquote, of home sausage making for Christmas, which I need to dive in and start making my own recipes and kind of like grind my own and kind of just go that way. So it's how's it defined pouring? If you really want to get technical, yes, meat can pour.
I think this fits into the definition. I don't know if TSA is going to let you walk on board with a bratwurst, but.
Especially not some of the stuff from Europe. They're definitely not allowed on the
That's a whole
TSA
different problem
plane.
with crossing borders.
But it's like that's kind of another hobby.
That's awesome.
If it wasn't wine, it was going to be some sort of meat processing career.
Yeah.
Which I think I've told people like, what? Ew, gross. I'm like, no, it's all good. So, but yeah, like just home, like got into the barbecue this year, and
is there a tool in the meat processing and the homemade ground meat processing thing that you really like, a go-to tool?
I mean, like the KitchenAid grinder is great.
Yeah.
Get the stainless one.
Yeah.
Just for like a easier to clean type of thing. Also, I think the white one is because it's plastic. If you get any scrapes in there, you can get potential for lasting contamination. In the meat ones is great. I have like a little hand grinder it was fine, but it's a lot of hand cranking, So if you got a KitchenAid, definitely get the KitchenAid grinder if you want to make your own grind.
Yep.
But I think really the biggest thing about making your own sausage is just grind it when it's semi-frozen. Because else you will have meat glue and then it really will flow.
Yeah.
Or
then
pour.
it does pour. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hot dog batter, that type of thing. So,
that's a good suggestion. I know Matt was the first one that put a fine point on this for me when he talked about kitchen stuff and how to eliminate or at least reduce the number of unitaskers in the kitchen, because most of us don't have unlimited space. Yeah. And I think the KitchenAid is a great example of the anti-unitasker. Like that thing I roll my own pasta, I grind meat, I food mill, make my own tomato sauce. Like, those things you're bolting on are not even really unitaskers in some ways, because a lot of them do more than one thing.
They have a lot of unitasker things you can buy for them now,
Definitely.
which of course that's just the capitalism. How do you make more things to sell to someone? Because the things last for 50 years. I think my grandma has one that she got in the 50s. 50s.
Mine is every
still.
bit of 30 plus years old, and it's still rocking, and you can replace the sacrificial gear when you do burn it out. I have the ice cream attachment, you know, and so
you probably don't need like the zucchini spiral slicer. That's probably something you don't need.
If you have one at home and you like it, no offense. I don't like spiraled zucchini no matter what, so I'm not looking for the thing either way. But if I'm going to eat noodles, I'm going to eat the real thing. But yeah, that's a great one, Matt. I love it. I haven't done that in a while. I need to get back to it. I used to do more grinding of my own stuff, and it just kind of moved on to more sauce making the last few years.
I think my thing is the make my own Texas hot link.
Okay.
I don't know. That just they're just good.
Yeah.
You know, that's like probably what I really enjoy most in barbecue is the hot link. Because that's kind of, again, the producer's own little unique thing they can do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, ribs are ribs. You're going to have your own rub, whatever.
Yep.
Pulled pork's pulled pork.
Yep.
Brisket's brisket. But like the sausage kind of blending of that, spices and whatnot, is kind of the uniqueness thing. So.
Absolutely, yeah. It's more of an artisan, like you say, where you can really make your own unique product kind of from scratch, and it can be all about you. So, well, that's great, Matt. I think that's probably a great place to leave it. We have covered maybe the broadest set of topics of an episode thus far, which is not at all a surprise. That was, again, the goal, to kind of lay the foundation. So now we can bring you back to talk about grinding meat, talk about botanicals,
talk about wine.
Occasionally winemaking.
We haven't really talked much about.
We'll get to winemaking here and there, but I have a feeling you'll be spending a lot of time.
We're gonna have the 3-hour dissertation talking about how to properly scrub a tank.
Yep, we'll do the tank cleaning one. We'll do the non-Saccharomyces yeast one. So yeah, we got a lot of rabbit holes to go down, which will be fun. So anyway, for now though, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really do appreciate it, and we'll put some links in the show notes to some of these beverages we were talking about, some of the restaurants we talked about, some of the everything that we talked about. So this will have a long list of links. Otherwise, thanks for joining us today. We are available on all the platforms, so just look for Poor Decisions on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, everywhere that you can find your podcast. We should be there. And if you want to just check out all the places where you can find us, or get transcripts for the episodes, or again, submit questions, just go to craftpourdecisions.com. And until next time, cheers. We won't use it, we don't want to be offset, or the one person who's watching the video will be super offended.
Yeah. So one guy, your audio, your video is terrible. Yeah.